Loglines. What are they? How do you build one? And as a novelist, why are loglines even something you should be concerning yourself about? These are all critical questions writers need to be able to have answers to. If you write stories, a logline is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on Story Bites. Hi, I'm Jeff Lyons, founder of StoryGeeks.com and the host of Story Talk, Therapy for Your Stories podcast. What you're going to be seeing in this video are two of many writers who participated in a live logline webinar. There's some alliteration, where all these writers pitch their stories, pitch their books, and work through their loglines using my logline development machine. And the reason I wanted to present these two particular writers was to give you a taste of what you're in for when it comes time for you to write a logline. You're going to watch these two writers face the same issues, the same problems, and the same challenges that you are, and how they use this machine to navigate the muddy waters of logline development. So, settle back and take a listen.
As much as this can feel like really bad speed dating, we will actually get into some real nuts and bolts here, and you're going to see a very interesting process. For those of you who have been through the blog post that explained the machine here a little bit, or the longer webinar, you're going to recognize a few of these slides. But for those of you who don't know a logline from a steak sandwich, this is at least the beginning that you can begin to see what this is about. Watch the webinar, look at the other videos I've done on this so that you can get a better handle on why this is a critical tool for screenwriters for sure, but novelists absolutely as well. And this is something you really want to learn how to do because it's your foot in the door with agents, editors, etc. Okay. And there's a lot of misconceptions about what this logline thing is and how to do it. So first, let me just talk very briefly about the 7 most common mistakes people make when they're doing a logline or trying to come up with one of these things. The first one is they mistake it for a hook, okay, which is when you read, we'll probably see this in our webinar today. We'll probably see a lot of these in the webinar today. But the hook is the hook. It's the high concept. It captures the thing that really grabs you when you first hear about it. It doesn't really tell you the story. The one that I like to use a lot is, a couple walks into a rural town and discovers the town's run by aliens. Okay, that's the hook. That's the high concept. Doesn't tell you anything about the story. You don't know if it's a horror movie. You don't know whether it's a thriller. You don't know whether it's a comedy, but it hooks you. There's something there that immediately grabs you. Okay, loglines are not that. Loglines are more than that. Loglines are the essence of your story, but not getting into the gory details. And you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about when we break some of these out. So they're not hooks. The other mistake people make is they fall into platitudes, using a lot of very standardized kinds of memes, like the hero on the knight in shining armor comes over the hill, things like that. And you'll see some of those phrases we all see all the time that have become memes, but don't and suggest things, but don't tell you anything. Those are problems in loglines because you got to cut to the chase. The other problem, people fall back on authorial intrusion. Will our hero really succeed? Gee, what's going to happen next? Let's see. Those literally, people do those sorts of things. As soon as you start talking like the person who's writing the logline to the reader, you pull them out and you've intruded as the author. You don't want to have any of those kinds of questions or questioning going on in your logline. One of the biggest things people do is they explain. If you look at pitch lines that editors get, they will throw them out into the round file after about 2 or 3 lines if You start off your pitch with all this backstory or all this explanation about the connective tissue that you think they have to understand before you can really tell them the story. They front load stuff, all the exposition, and they explain, and they don't ever talk about what's actually happening in the story. We're going to see that for sure. Another thing is people don't leverage language. You know, if you're writing a thriller, then the logline has to have thrilling words. Use language to help convey the genre and the tone. Okay, so that comes after you figure out what's the content of the logline. But you want to leverage language to your advantage. The other thing people do, they don't ever get to the good stuff. They're always biting around the edges, holding back. Okay, it's like you will see sometimes people at the end of their log lines will say, and then a really cool thing happens at the end. No, tell the person what's going on. You want spoilers in your log lines. Okay, so don't hold back. You want to give them the meat. Okay, and the biggest thing, and we can't get into this here, unfortunately, because this is a whole other webinar, a whole other topic, is people think log lines are premise lines. This is what my book, Anatomy of a Premise Line, is all about. Premise lines are the entire structure of your story in one or two short sentences. You actually tell your whole story in a premise line or a couple of sentences. And that's not what you do with a log line. And people think these two are interchangeable. They are not. Okay. So these are the common errors, and we're going to see a bunch of these for sure. Okay. Here's the machine. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take your pitch and we're going to walk it through this machine. You literally, you know, there are things in the creative writing world, tools that you will use that will in fact be cookie cutter-ish. I'm opposed to cookie cutters. I don't like formulas, blah, 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 even though I teach a lot of very procedure heavy things. It's because you have to approach them in that way in order to get the job done. This is one of them. This is literally a machine. You want your log line to be written in this order with these pieces. And we're gonna use this little template on your pitches to show you where those components are. These are the things you want pretty much in narrative order as you say your log line. The hook will be implicit in your log line if you write it properly. Okay, so this is what we're going to be working with very intimately. 2 warnings. No one's going to walk away with a log line today. This is not a bait and switch, honestly. The log line isn't something you sit down and do in 5 minutes. It takes time because you've got to do this strategy. First, you figure out whether you've got your story structure pieces. Then you've got to wordsmith it and tweak it to get it to work with tone and genre. Nail those things. And then you got to cut it down. Then you got to cut it down. Then you got to cut it down to 2 to 2.5 lines max. Okay. That takes time. What we're going to focus on is the first bullet. Do you have the structure pieces to actually make this thing work? That's where you want to spend the lion's share of your effort. Okay. So the warning is, that's what you're going to walk away with today more than anything else, to find out whether you're in the right wheelhouse, first of all, and then are the structure pieces there. And part of this process sometimes tells you that you have more work to do on the development side before you do your logline. I used to think, and I think I said this in my original webinar here, was that it doesn't matter when you do your logline. You can kind of do it anytime you want. I don't think that anymore. I'm pretty convinced now that you must have your premise line figured out, which means you've got to have the core structure elements of your story figured out before you do your logline, because there's so many key structure elements that are in the logline. And if you don't know what those are, and we're going to see that probably here, people are going to go, well, I really haven't thought about that. So then you got to go back to the drawing board. You've got to go back and do your basic development work. One of my basic credos is develop first, write second, which is totally the opposite of what you learn in most creative writing programs. It's like, right, because that's what writers do. Right. The story will tell itself. No, it will not. That never happens. So develop first, write second. This is part of that development process. Okay. So I just want to set you up so that you're not being set up for failure here. Okay. So this is the strategy that you will use as you guys work on this with me, will get you at a place where you're going to feel like, okay, I've got the pieces I need. Then you can take this through the strategy and develop this yourself in fairly rapid time and feel pretty confident you're going to be a lot stronger than you were otherwise. Okay. Okay. Let me read this real quick. Set in modern day Central Oregon. Okay. There's our world. Very clear. A woman with trust and abandonment issues. Okay. Begins to forge a precarious relationship with her stepmother. But when her world is shaken by an extraordinary revelation and family secrets, she's challenged to decide between risking her heart and losing the only family she has left. All right, this is terrific.
Wow, thank you.
No, but it's very vague. Okay.
Yes.
So the only job we have here is to take these generic phraseology and get specific.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, what's her trust issue?
Well, she doesn't trust people loving her, is basically what's wrong, because she was abandoned as a child from her mother, by her mother, excuse me.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you a lot here. So, because I want to get to this moral thing. Okay, so she was abandoned by her mother. What was the conclusion she came to about why she was abandoned? I was abandoned by my mother because I'm really ...
Yeah, not lovable.
Okay. What about her isn't lovable?
Basically, her entire personality is where I am with that. I know it needs to be more specific than that, but her mother basically just doesn't accept anything about her. So she was only just a little girl. So I'm not sure how to develop that. So more specific.
I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you a quick example from another student that I've had.
Okay.
Because this is what happens when you really, because you did exactly the right thing here. You were getting down to the blind spot. Okay. That horrible dirty little secret about themselves. I'm not lovable. It feels generic. It's a good one. You can go with it. It'll work, but it'd be great if you could get more specific. But example, another student of mine came up with one. My character, after we're going through this, doesn't feel good enough. Right? Okay,
right.
You got it. Doesn't feel good enough. But it felt too generic to me. So I could, let's get under that hood. Let's go, what about her isn't good enough? And then we talked, and then some keywords slipped out of her mouth that then made it really clear that she was a scaredy cat, she said. And it was very clear. It was like, okay, she's not good enough because she's a coward.
Okay, if I tell you this part, it may or may not be helpful, but there's actually nothing her mother doesn't like about her, but as it turns out, it's not her mother. And so it's not her birth mother. And so basically the birth mother never took to her, never really opened her heart to this
child.
Does
she know this?
She's going to in the story. She doesn't know it in the beginning. It's a revelation that comes on later, where she discovers she was adopted and her birth mother is actually her stepmother. So
okay.
But neither her nor the stepmother know.
Yeah, you're gonna have to think a little. So, but a kid is not gonna,
know that, right?
Yeah, the kid's not gonna know that. So they're gonna draw a conclusion that I'm bad, I'm wrong, whatever it is. So right now you can just go with I'm not lovable. Okay. No matter what, I'm not lovable.
Right.
You also have a belonging thing going on here, which is also strong. Okay. So a woman who feels unlovable, begins to forge a precarious relationship with her stepmother. is the stepmother the person who's going to be in the story with her more than anyone else?
Yes.
Okay, so this story is about these two women.
The main, yeah, the main portion of the story is about these two women, and of course there's a romantic element involved, but yes, it's mostly a women's fiction on these two women and their relationship and where it goes.
Okay, so what is the challenge she's facing? What is her goal? What does she want? Anything particular in the story? What's her goal?
She actually wants to be able to open her heart to be loved. She doesn't want to be so closed off like
Okay.
she is. She
Okay.
wants a mother figure.
Writing secret number one.
Okay.
when it comes to character goals, they need
Yeah.
to be tangible. They can't be, I want to be one with God. I want to have an open heart. Those are too abstract.
Okay.
How do you show that? What are you gonna?
Okay.
How do you show oneness with the universe?
Wanting a mother, do you think, would that be something considered tangible, or is that still a bit, abstract?
Well, I mean, is that a logical goal for a grown woman?
That's true.
Yeah. So she needs to want something. She needs to want the guy, or she needs to want the girl, or she needs to want the money, or not to be too crass about it, but there needs to be some reason. This stepmother is pushing her away. Why is she trying to forge a relationship with her? To what end?
Actually, the stepmother's not pushing her away. The real mother is. Who she thinks is her real mother is pushed her away. The stepmother's always wanted to be part of her life, but she refuses to open up to her until her father dies, and that's where the story begins.
Okay. So we have to know what's the challenge for her in this book? What is she overcoming?
The protagonist.
But what's the
Well,
threat?
I mean, it's intangible. What she's overcoming, like what you said, though, it's just.
Then how are you going to sell this book?
I don't know. I mean,
Yes.
we're getting tripped up right there on that.
This is part of the danger of doing this.
No, it's good though.
No, it is. It's very good because it shows you as a writer where you're not digging deep enough into your story structure to hold your readers. Because the reader's going to get very, very frustrated with ephemera of characters who are leaves on the wind getting pushed by events and not driving events, or they're too passive and they don't really know what they want, but they kind of want this, but you're going to lose your reader, so if it's a women's focused novel, then she's going to want something related to that, right? There's got to be something. What's the extraordinary revelation driving this?
Well, to me, the extraordinary revelation was the finding out that her stepmother, who's been in her life most of her life, her and her stepmother discovered that she's actually the biological mother. The stepmother had a baby and was told the baby died. And they live in the same town. It happens that this baby was adopted by her current mom and dad. But so the stepmother, and nobody knows this revelation except the dead father and the mother who abandoned the family. So it's a revelation for the protagonist.
Okay, so you have a mystery here.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, she doesn't know she's adopted for a long time either. So it all kind of happens at the climax.
You just dropped the bomb here. Okay, so that's that. Now I know what the story is. This is a woman who's uncovering her past.
Yes.
Okay. So she's got to slowly, incrementally get the clues that'll lead her to, who.
True.
And then that's the end of the story with the big blowout.
So even though she doesn't know that this stuff yet, she's uncovering a past without realizing.
Exactly. She can't know specifically who, but she's going to learn about the circumstances.
Okay.
And it's about how this changes her over the course of that investigation, and how the people who are at the end of that investigation are going to try to sabotage her from getting the truth because it's too painful.
Yeah.
That's your story.
Okay.
I will bet you money, all the money in my pockets with all the money in your pockets. That's the story. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does make sense. Yes.
Okay. That's what this premise line has to convey. Okay.
Okay.
So who, just real quick, who's raising, who raised her?
Well, her father raised her until basically she was like 8, if I'm recalling correctly. And then the father remarries. But basically, the father raises her. The mother's in another country, has little contact. So the father raises her with this stepmother coming along.
Who does she think is her mother at the beginning of the story?
Yeah, she does. She thinks that the ex-wife now, or the one who abandoned her when she was 6, she believes that's her mother. That's what she's told, that's her
Okay.
mother. So she's
Okay.
abandoned by her mother is what she believes. Yes.
Okay. And then she discovers there's some other whole other person involved in this.
Right. Then and later, way later, she discovers the stepmother,
Okay.
and her
So
both discovers
that's
that.
what she's got to discover over the course of the middle of the story, is
Right.
piecing this together.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
you're not going to be able to write a log line until you have your investigation figured out.
Okay.
Is this written?
Yes, I'm actually written the whole first draft, and I was starting the process of editing, or the second writing, whatever.
Perfect.
Okay.
I think you've got a serious rewrite here, but I think you've got a very clear story here.
Okay.
That will be very compelling. And I'm not saying what you have isn't, but I in very short order after you drop that little bomb, now the pieces just fell into place. I was like, oh, that's what she's doing. That's what's going on here.
Well, I'm not sure how to add that. Oh, you said I can't do the log line yet. Anyways, okay.
Yeah, you can't. I don't see how you can do the log line until you figure out how these people are going to fit together at the end, and what the final revelation is going to come out. And then the choice she has to make is whether to accept or reject them.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Is there going to be a healing here, or is she going to realize, I don't need them, I'm enough?
That was, yeah, that's true. I hadn't really thought of that, but
that's a biggie. This all has to lead to some emotional change. So that's kind of wide open here in terms of what can happen. It could be a real feel-goody kind of thing with everybody hugging, or it can be her just saying, screw you, you dysfunctional so-and-so, I'm going off and living my life. Okay, so there you go. Those are all the pieces. So when you go back and listen to this, there's a lot of gems here in terms of helping direct you in terms of how I think you have to restructure the middle of this to make it more engaging.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to re-listen to this because some of it's going one ear and out the other, just because it's stressful.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to take it in this sort of situation.
But thank you very much.
No, thank you, Linda. That's great.
This is one of the biggest things about this process, of why I say you've got to do your premise line first, because when you don't know what the structure of your story is,
right,
you're going to get into these blind spots when you have to actually figure out how you're going to sell it to somebody. This is a marketing tool here. This is a marketing tool.
It's true. I mean, like, I thought I knew all of that until you break it down and realize, oh, wait a minute, I guess there's some big holes.
Yeah. No, but that's the magic of this whole process. That's exactly what happened last time when we were going through them, is that distilling makes you really realize what's missing.
But I want you to see that what you did here was absolutely correct. I mean, you've got the pieces, but they're so undefined that I don't know what the story is.
Okay.
Yeah, but you got the idea. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I think so. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. In a modern society inhabited by elven folk, fantastic, who can't share land, food, or even courtesy, the white elf ambassador seeks peace, but his path brings everyone to the edge of a world war. Interesting world for sure. I'm not sure how. So I don't know whether these are elves in hiding in plain sight, or whether this is a fantasy world that's just a modern society somewhere else. So I'm not. You got the world here, but you got to be clear about, are we on Earth? Are we in somewhere? Are we in the fairy realm? What's going on here? Not sure. And of the elven folk, who's your protagonist? You see how we keep coming back to the same stuff, folks. Same questions. Look at the machine. We got the world. We need to define it. Who's the protagonist? Answer the questions. Okay, which elf? Okay, once you know who it is, what is that person going to have to do? What's their challenge? What's their goal? I don't know. Sounds like there's one who's seeking peace. Okay, is that the protagonist? Okay, then who are they up against? Who's the opponent? Who's trying to stop the white elf from getting peace? Okay, and then what is that choice decision the white elf is going to have to make, assuming it's the white elf who's the protagonist? Okay, but clear stakes, edge of a world war, fantastic. But I don't know these pieces, so you can't. There's no narrative line here that I'm following. You're just throwing up story elements on the wall to see what sticks. Okay. But it's definitely a great start, great world. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff going on, but you've got to now focus that and answer these questions. And there's only a few that you got to answer. Okay, these last two really. Okay.
Okay. Great. I think we need to call it. We need to call it there. Thank you, everyone, for sharing everything. And again, I'm sorry that we didn't get to everybody. Again, we're gonna have to do a part 3 after all of this. If you found it helpful, please let Jeff know in the chat there, because he can have a quick look at that. I can see lots of people saying that they appreciate it. And Jeff, thank you again.
You're really, very welcome.
I just feel like I learned so much, and at the end of it, by the end of it, I think, oh no, I see what you're missing. Where's the opponent there? I'm like,
see, that's what I'm going for. I want all of you guys to be saying the exact same thing. It's like, oh, okay, that's what they're missing. See, the way you learn this is by doing it over and over and over. That's why having these up online on YouTube and stuff is great, because you can go in and you can experience those learning moments with other people who are brave enough to sit there and let their stuff get pulled apart. And it's great. I mean, that's great. You're doing this. It's so important.
Well, why don't we, if anybody's interested, maybe I'll put a thread into our Facebook group tomorrow, and everyone can add Loglines there and feed back on each other and call each other out if they're missing a key decision.
Yeah, play with it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And everybody can work on it together. So have a look for the ProWritingAid Facebook group, and I'll put something up tomorrow. And then you can all work together and figure out what's missing. Because it's so hard to look at your own, isn't it, and see what's missing, because you know it.
I have people, I mean, I do this professionally, but I have like 2 or 3 people I go to with all my stuff who set me straight, and I miss stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So we're all in this together, honestly.
Yeah. And it is an art, and it's a thing that you learn and that you practice, and the more you do, the better you get at it. And now you'll be able to look at each other's and see which ones, where the holes are and what you're missing.
Yes.
Great. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. Really had fun.
Bye.
There you have it, the Logline machine. Not necessarily pretty, but absolutely powerful and productive for you as a writer. If you would like to watch the original workshop that I did for ProWritingAid on how the machine works and get more details about the Logline machine itself, and watch additional writers go through the process of working one-on-one, then click the link below and it'll take you to that free webinar. And as I said earlier, the link below is also there for this longer webinar, this Logline Lab. And if you click that, it'll take you to that free webinar as well, so you can see the whole thing. And there's a lot more writers who participated. As always, if you find you have found value and help from this video, please subscribe to the channel. Love to have you. And click that little bell to get notified of any new content that I upload to Story Bites or any of my other channel playlists. Thank you again for your time. It was great to have you here, and I will see you in the channel.